All right, let's dive into the science behind so-called anti-aging supplements. There's one combo in particular, GlyNAC, that's been getting a ton of buzz, with some pretty wild promises about turning back our biological clock. But does the science actually back that up? Let's take a look.
I mean, this is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Can we actually reverse the key signs of aging with a pill? We're going to look at one specific supplement combination that got a lot of people very excited and see if it really holds up.
And when I say stunning, I mean the first results were almost unbelievable, showing improvements pretty much across the board. This is what lit the fuse on all the interest, and it's where our story really kicks off.
But first things first, to really get why a potential solution is so exciting, you've got to understand the problem. So what exactly is happening inside our bodies as we get older? Well, scientists call it the hallmarks of aging. Think of it like this, right? Oxidative stress is like rust, slowly building up on our cells. The power plants inside our cells, the mitochondria, they start to sputter out. We get this low-grade, constant inflammation that some researchers even call inflammaging. And all of this stuff starts to cause damage to our actual DNA. These are the big drivers behind what we experience as getting older.
So how does our body even begin to fight back against all that? Well, it has a secret weapon, one of its most powerful tools, a molecule called glutathione. Let's dig into what this thing actually does.
Okay, so glutathione, or GSH for short, is basically our body's master antioxidant. It's the frontline defense, neutralizing all those nasty free radicals that cause that cellular rust we just talked about. It is absolutely critical for keeping everything inside us running the way it's supposed to. Now, here's the problem, and it's a big one. When researchers look at this, they see a really clear pattern. When you're young, you've got plenty of this protective glutathione, but as we get older, our natural supply just tanks. It drops way down, leaving us way more vulnerable to all those hallmarks of aging. So this is where the science gets really cool. Researchers at Baylor College of Medicine started wondering, hey, what if we could just restore those glutathione levels in older folks? And that one simple question led them to create the GlyNAC pilot study. The setup was actually pretty simple. They got a small group, just 8 older adults, and for 24 weeks, they gave them a supplement called GlyNAC. Now, GlyNAC is just a mix of 2 amino acids, glycine and N-acetylcysteine. Think of them as the raw building blocks for glutathione. The hope was, if you give the body the raw materials, it'll start making its own master defender again. So the researchers measured everything you could think of, before, during, and after, and the results they found were, to put it lightly, pretty incredible. I mean, just look at this list. The GlyNAC supplement didn't just fix one thing. It seemed to improve almost all of the hallmarks of aging they were tracking. People saw less oxidative stress, less inflammation, their cellular power plant started working better. They even saw improvements in things like body fat, how clearly they could think, and how well they could move. And let's talk about the real-world impact here, because this wasn't just numbers in a lab. The older adults in this tiny study saw their walking speed improve so much that it matched that of young adults. Their grip strength got a lot better, they could exercise more. These are real, tangible things that make a huge difference in someone's quality of life. The lead researcher, Dr. Seghar, summed it all up by saying these improvements could point towards better heart and metabolic health down the line. You know, after a pilot study like this, it's really easy to see why everybody got so excited. But in science, excitement is always followed by more questions. Okay, so while those GlyNAC results seem amazing, we have to pump the brakes a little. It was a very small study on a combination supplement. To really figure out what's going on, we have to ask, is it the unique GlyNAC combo that's working, or is it just one of the ingredients? So let's zoom out and look at the evidence for just one of its main parts, N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. Because it's a building block for that master antioxidant, NAC has been tested for a whole bunch of different conditions. Looking at a much larger study on NAC all by itself should give us a more complete and, frankly, a much more complex picture of what's happening here.
So here we go, a much more solid study. This one had 182 people. It was randomized, double-blind, and placebo-controlled. That is the gold standard for clinical research. The researchers wanted to see if NAC could help with PTSD and alcohol use disorder, which are also conditions tied to stress and inflammation. And here are the results. Now look closely. Yes, the group that took NAC saw their PTSD symptoms get better, but so did the group taking a placebo, a sugar pill. And when you compare the two groups side by side, there was no meaningful difference between them. In this bigger, much better designed trial, NAC didn't perform any better than a placebo. So how in the world do we make sense of this? On one hand, you've got a tiny study showing these unbelievable results. On the other, a much larger, much more rigorous study that shows, well, nothing. This right here is the reality of how scientific research actually works. It's messy. And you know, these mixed results haven't stopped scientists from exploring NAC. As you can see, it's being investigated for a huge range of things. Because it plays such a key role in our body's defense system, the potential is massive. The challenge is actually proving it works for any one specific condition. It's also really important to remember that NAC isn't the only player in this game. I mean, take magnesium, for example. Not having enough of this mineral is also linked to that same oxidative stress and inflammation, those same hallmarks of aging. And here's the thing. Clinical trials have shown that magnesium supplements can actually lower blood pressure. It just goes to show you there are a lot of ways to target these underlying problems. And that brings us to what is maybe the most important takeaway from all of this. That GlyNAC study was incredibly exciting, but it was a pilot study. It's a starting point. It's designed to create an idea, a hypothesis. And that hypothesis must then be tested in bigger, tougher trials, just like that PTSD study. This whole process is what separates a real medical breakthrough from just being temporary hype. So we're kind of left in this fascinating spot, right? We have these compounds that show so much promise in the lab or in these small studies, but then they often fail to deliver in the big leagues. It's a good reminder for all of us to stay curious, but also to stay critical as we try to navigate this really promising but also really complex world of supplements.